Hi, this is Ashish R. Bedekar, and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Kristin. She is a revenue coach, having spent years helping hundreds of CEOs and entrepreneurs sell more by understanding what their customers want to buy and why they want to buy. She is a sales and marketing turnaround expert and management consultant. She has founded Zhivago Partners, a revenue growth services company that identify where your sales are stuck, helps you fix them, and also finds new market opportunities for you to pursue. She is the author of the five-star rated book, Roadmap to Revenue: How to Sell the Way Your Customers Want to Buy. Welcome to the show, Kristen. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing your views on top five mistakes CROs make. Over to you.
Thanks. Okay. Do you want me to just start with number one?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just a quick intro about about your career graph, if you wish to kind of share that, how you got into, sales training, how you help CROs achieve excellence, and then maybe we can just dive into the what you feel are the top five mistakes that CROs commit that kind of, pulls them
That's
back
fine.
from achieving.
Okay, great. I started out selling and I sold a lot of things. I think I was the first woman to sell machine shop tools in the United States. And that taught me that I was 17 at the time, if you don't know what you're selling, if you don't understand what you're selling, you won't sell anything. So I vowed, after one not so great sales call, to learn everything I could about tech and selling, and I've been doing that ever since. So that was the start. I actually opened up a high-tech ad agency in Silicon Valley with my husband way back when, decades ago. We did that for about 12 years, and then the Mac came out, and I told my husband, who was doing graphics, they're going to go in-house. So I'm going to start working with people in-house, and I reinvented myself to be a revenue coach. I told my husband, just go ahead and retire, and he did. He's an inventor, and he made things all day long. These speakers are part of his functional artwork. And I just started doing marketing and sales turnarounds for companies of all sizes, mid-size mostly, but I also worked for Dow Jones, IBM, Johnson & Johnson, some of the bigger companies. I learned a lot of lessons about internal struggles for marketing people in that job, marketing and sales managers. So some of what I'm going to be talking about comes from that. And then by 2017, I could see that a lot of mid-sized companies, established mid-sized companies, were struggling to compete against their more savvy, digitally savvy competitors. And I'd been in tech for years and marketing, and so I opened up a digital agency. Because of AI, we have now pivoted and we're offering a bigger service, which is doing the market research, customer research that we always did, but then helping companies remove the barriers to the sale. And as you mentioned, find new opportunities out in the market. And we use a lot of AI for that, but mostly it's the customer and internal interviews that help us pinpoint what needs to be fixed. And then I have a group of really talented AI and digital marketing experts, and we go to work and fix all of that, and the revenue starts going up. That's what we do.
Fantastic. And I'm sure the topic which we selected would be of great interest to CROs, and your experience in the external customer facing side as well as internal processes would really be very insightful. So really excited to hearing from you. So what do you feel is the top, kind of a point which you'd like to cover? What are the top mistakes which CROs make? Let's start with that.
All right. The first one comes down to just a really basic truth, which is that money, revenue, comes from customers. And people are like, well, yeah, duh. But they don't act like it. They get so involved in everything else. And one of the mistakes that comes from this mistake is that they go for channels first. They worry about where their message is going, and they sweat over which channels it should be in before they actually get the message right. And customers know when they are understood. All of us have that. All of us know when we're being taken care of, when somebody actually gets us. So we're sort of guessing, and now AI has made it even easier to guess, which frightens me. I don't get frightened, but it concerns me because AI is just sort of automating us missing the point. So customers want to be taken care of, which means that the basic premise here is that marketing makes the promise that the company needs to keep. And the company either keeps the promises or breaks the promises. And if they break too many promises, their revenue goes down. If they make promises and keep them, then the revenue goes up. And I'm writing a new book called Love, Leverage, and Logistics, How You and Your Company Can Change the World. And it's about creating these promise-keeping machines that work, and the employees are happy because you're taking care of them, the customers are happy because you're taking care of them, and your partners are happy. That's what actually creates good, solid revenue that you can count on. And that's the thing that gets lost in the day-to-day.
Right. So that's a very valid point, because even many folks, many leaders kind of tend to rely too much on what is called as a sales tech or martech, right? And missing the whole point that, okay, how many real customers have you met, right? It's one thing to read reports and implement workflows, but have you kind of got really met customers, unhappy customers, happy customers, customers who can vouch for you, customers who can recommend for you? That's where the real insights kind of are caught, and that's where the rubber hits the road. So essentially, unless you go out in the field, get out of the building, as also said, you kind of also have a first-hand view and a practical check on the processes which you have implemented and whether they are really working. And you brought a very important point on channel partners. It's very important that, yes, channel partners are important in sales, especially in technology sales, where more than 60% of revenues are created by partners. But it's important to get your story first, right? Because a channel partner is a complementary play. They can't do the job for you, right? Mm-hmm. So unless you're sure that, okay, this is the way to go, and now let's work together, otherwise you will just be another checklist point, right? Yes, you have signed a partnership agreement, but it kind of ends there. Fascinating. So coming to the second point which you would like to talk about in terms of mistakes. So first we talked about, just to recap, is the overall alignment, misalignment in the way wherein CRO leaders get kind of stuck into the nitty-gritties of the workflows and systems and technologies and AI, but kind of miss the point about what they're doing with the customers. Let's talk about the other points as well. What do you think are the other mistakes which CROs should avoid?
The second one is tied to the first, in the sense that marketing people as a role, just doing their basic work, have much less power in the conference room than they should. There are times when somebody who is respected by the CEO, like one of the top engineers or the financial guy, and there's a lot of financial influence these days. There's a lot of penny pinching going on, and it's really Affecting the relationship of the company with the customers. I'm finding I interview customers constantly for clients, and I've interviewed thousands of customers in all industries, and they know when a penny has been pinched. They know that they're getting, on the consumer side, we do a lot of work in B2B just because of my tech background, but on the consumer side, a good example is the cookies get smaller, but the package looks the same. Okay. Or there's fewer chocolate chips in the cookies. People absolutely notice. They're not stupid. They open the cookie package and they're like, wait a minute, this cookie used to be this big and now it's that big.
Yeah.
Excuse me, who do you think you're fooling? And this is going on massively all over the place. So the opinions of people who are not talking to customers often become the direction the company has to go because the CEO respects that person in another area. A really good engineer that makes good products, or the financial guy that keeps costs down, they win the arguments in the conference room because the one thing that marketers need to bring to the table is a personal knowledge of customers. Now, in my book, Roadmap to Revenue, I basically spell it out. That book is a prescription. It's not. It's a recipe. It's not, one theory and lots of examples. It is a checklist. So you in chapter 3, I say, here's how you go and interview. You just do it in Zoom audio, just to keep them more comfortable. You ask open-ended questions. And what you're doing is you're going to the happy customers, the ones that have been satisfied, because you want to reverse engineer a successful sale. What you're trying to figure out is the mindset of the customer when they set out to buy. I think that's the most important thing. It's more important than demographics and psychographics and location and their previous behavior, all of that stalking that we're doing now with AI. It's very different than knowing what they were thinking when they set out to buy. And their mindset consists of their desires, their concerns, and their questions. And those are 3 hoops that you have to jump through when they come to your site or they're otherwise exposed to you. So this is what you need to know, and you can only get it from the people who have already bought from you, and they will tell you, and then you'll be able to tune your message to that truth. And then you pick the channels, and then you stand in the conference room and somebody says, oh, no, we should talk about this. This is the most important thing. Right. And you can say, well, no, I've just talked to 20 customers this month, and they don't even care about that. They want this.
True.
That's where power comes from, in the conference room. And when you've experienced it for yourself, it's amazing. It's a life-changing event.
Right. No, in fact, I'm reminded of a saying or a quote, and I paraphrase. It says that the customer's not stupid; she's your mom. Right?
Yeah, no, that came from David Ogilvy back in the day, and he said, she's your wife.
Oh, okay.
He respected his wife, obviously, but
True.
Yeah, he was famous for that quote.
Yeah. So
You're
one
right.
thing, and what you talked about, AI makes a great sense, because now there's a lot of talk and chatter about intent, right? So you kind of understand what the customer is thinking, and based on that, these are the kind of 10 workflows which, thanks to agentic AI, this will automatically send an email to the prospect and set up a robotic call and this and that. But as you rightly mentioned, the ground truth, get out of the building, talk to customers, and I think also CRO should also think about the humility aspect, right? Because, for example, they have been successful for like 4 quarters in a row with bumper revenues and bumper thing. Don't assume you know all, right? Because there could be a scrappy little startup which will really turn the whole business model. So with humility, get the feedback, keep your antennas up, and spot for small nuances or things. Don't be dismissive. For example, one is famously reminded of market leaders, right? At one point, who thought they understood customers, right? Like BlackBerry or say Nokia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if they kind of took the customer insight to a different level of arrogance, right? Saying that, oh, we know the customers and they've been
Oh,
buying
yeah.
for us. We've got like a dominant market share, but they missed the subtlety, right? Customers were talking uh, with the shifting trends, and had they spotted that, things would have been different. Fascinating.
Yeah, you're right. I learned that I needed to talk to customers for clients because back even when I was running an ad agency, I would sit down with the company and the management, and I'd say, okay, what's important to your customers? And they'd say, this and this and this and this, and this is the top of the list. This is what they care about. And then I'd go out and interview customers, and they'd be like, everybody does that. We don't even care about that.
Right.
So here's my list, and it's different. It might be some of the items in common, but the priority was completely different, or there was something on the list that the management just didn't even think about.
Excellent. In fact, that's raises a very interesting point. Customers don't like being talked down, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because specifically, as marketers or CROs, we have a certain deck, right? This is what we feel you should do, or
Yeah.
this is what we feel is your
Yeah.
problem, and this is the prescription, right? We follow that standard thing. Okay, this is the problem, this is the solution, this is why we do better, blah blah blah. But many times, I think I read a very interesting kind of a post on LinkedIn wherein there was a 10-slide page, and the customer said, hey, let's kind of spend time on slide number 4. So the CRO was humble enough to understand the real intent behind why is more interested on slide 5, and did not rush and said, okay, let's revisit after I finish the presentation, because there he was able to then capture what exactly is the customer saying. So that's very very important. Yeah.
It's not, this whole thing is not about selling.
Yeah.
Persuasion is completely overrated. People go out and look for things. They have a need or a desire, and they search. People work so they can buy, okay? We have lots and lots of people who need what we sell, but if we talk about it based on what we think, we're going to miss the mark. And
Exactly.
they won't care. They'll just, it's like marketing blah blah, never mind. And by the way, AI the copy AI writes tends to be very generic and very corporate, even if you tell it to be casual and friendly and all that, but they're still missing the point.
Sure.
They're not saying to the customer what the customer wants to hear. This is all about the buying process. And I don't mean to brag, but I was one of the first people to identify that this is not about selling. Years ago, I was giving speeches around the world talking about the buying process. And our job is to make it easier for them to buy. And we don't do that. We put roadblocks in without even realizing it. We put roadblocks in.
Oh, fantastic. So what would you say is the third mistakes which CROs make, and what they should be avoiding?
This is part of the power thing, but I've seen some really good marketing people be fired because they never talked about what they're doing. And it's better than it was because we've now got better tools for measuring our success. But marketers tend to be, I always talk about salespeople are dogs and marketers are cats. And they tend to be sort of introverts, and they don't brag, and you do need to be, first of all, you need to know the customer so you can stand up and say those things, and then you back it up with the data. Like these articles are the ones that are really bringing them into our site, and here's why. And it's because of this thing that they told me before. So once you know the customer, then you can that's the sort of qualitative part of it. But the quantitative part of it still needs to be right there. Everybody knows these things are working, these things aren't. Here's what we're doing about it. And there's not enough of that. It's still a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
you can be doing all this work, but if they don't know what you're doing and how it's really manifesting itself, it's better than it used to be, but it's still a problem.
Right. So that's a valid observation, because you, even internally as well as externally, you can't have the world's best kept secret. Right? If you're doing a if you're doing a good job, customers should know, internal stakeholders should know. Also, many times the process is also important along with the results, right? Because in the pursuit of targets, right, one shouldn't cut corners or do things which ideally they should not be doing. You may look at the big numbers and say, okay, we have achieved everything, but hey, just dig deeper. Have you kind of ensured a proper workflow, a proper adherence to standards, etc.? Because we may have 2 or 3 quarters of great super duper business, but underlying there is a rot which is already set, and it can lead to a PR disaster, or some ethics problem down the line. You don't want that, right? So there has to be a balance, and also on the same point, while results are important, the process is also important, right? Because you have to have a judicious balance on that. So that's really fascinating. What else would you? Yeah, sorry.
I just want to add to that. Your boss is your first customer.
Very true.
And you need to interview your boss. And that doesn't happen as much as you think it should. I mean, it's sort of implied and inferred, and maybe the boss talks about things, or your CEO or whatever. But you need to sit back with your boss, your CEO usually, and say, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? What are your goals? What do you want to be known as? What are the promises that you think we can keep? And that kind of deep conversation then can make sure that when you pitch your programs to the boss, he or she is going to buy into it. And they have a buying process too. They have the same desires, concerns, and questions, and you need to address all of those. So again, this is a selling thing, but it's actually a buying thing. The boss has their mindset, and once you understand that, and then you can sync up what you're doing with customers with the boss. There's going to be a place in the middle where you can please both audiences.
Right. And in fact, there is a famous meme which talks of, what do you want? What do you really want, right? So that kind of deep conversation will uncover many things, because also at a CEO level, there's a lot of hoopla, there's a lot of hype about various technologies, etc. Many of them are ephemeral, right? You just have a trend of the week or so, and that shouldn't be the priority, right? You can't change course every week. But if you have a good conversation, okay, this is what we really want to achieve in the next 5 years. And hence, these are the kind of things which make sense. This is what we are going to do, and maybe revisit a couple of assumptions on a yearly basis. So then there's no surprise. And of course, you would have some specific technology shifts or some announcements. But once you have that framework there, then you can always come back and kind of check whether you really need to revisit whatever you had planned for. A very, very, very valid and very insightful point.
Okay, so number 4 is AI. AI, it's the biggest tsunami I've ever seen in tech, and I've been in tech for decades. I mean, back before the Mac was introduced, I was in tech. AI is changing everything, and in fact, it's basically wiping out whole industries. The digital marketing industry is dead, basically, which is one of the reasons I pivoted. I've pivoted 4 times, I think, in my career, and you really have to be patient and set up a new set of promises that you can keep, build the infrastructure and make it work. And I've done it enough times to know that, I can do it again. AI has changed the way people think about marketing. It kind of reminds me of when the web came out in 94 and became more of a commercial medium. And everybody thought, oh, good, we're going to know what customers are doing, and that's going to help us be on target. And, this is the same stalking thing that we do. But as buyers, we know that if somebody stalked us for 2 weeks and said, oh, she goes to the store on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, so she doesn't, and then this whole thing about your behaviors and everything. It still doesn't capture the mindset of the buyer when they set out to buy your product. It's very specific, and you need to know what it is. So I'm worried because AI, and again, I don't worry, I'm not afraid. I'm concerned because AI has made it easier to miss the mark and think you're not missing the mark. And it's also commoditizing the whole marketing industry, graphic art and web development and just the writing and everything. Everybody thinks they can just use AI and everything will be fine. But they are missing that basic point. Customers buy. Human beings are customers, and they're the ones who buy. Now, I know that there are going to be our own little shopping agents where we can say, I only want a black dress. I never wear orange. If you see this, find it for me, that kind of thing. I know that's coming. It's sort of dancing around, it's been around for a long time in a way, but it's really going to happen. And the problem there is now you're going to be selling to algorithms.
True.
But there's still going to be a customer behind it. There's no LLM with a credit card yet. Okay.
True.
So we still have to understand our power base, our rock solid understanding of what we need to do to sell more goes back to the customer. And if we get really distracted by this latest, biggest, shiny object, we're going to be in trouble. So I would say with AI, know first the customer and what they want and their concerns and their questions, and then figure out what you need to use from AI that will work in that environment. And don't do other things. There's a saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should. This really needs to apply to AI. Because AI, trying to make your business AI centric is a big job. And it's software. It can take, you have scope creep and, software is much harder. And yes, you don't need to code anymore. You can just tell it what to do in English, which is amazing and fantastic. And I do it every day. I love it. But if you miss these basics, you're gonna fail faster and more explosively with AI.
True. No, in fact, I'm reminded of the statistics which say that in AI projects, only 70% our projects fail or don't go beyond the pilot phase, because maybe it's also of the same kind of challenge of overhyping and not being out of touch with reality. And another factor is, all said and done, even if you talk of B2C or B2B, it's always has to be edge to edge, human to human. Because, if you have an agent sending an email, which is getting read by another AI agent, what's the point, right? You're not really moving or making any fantastic thing.
Yeah.
And it again, I like to reflect on memes and what the deeper meaning which they convey. So one of the memes talked about how maybe 5 or 10 years back, when researchers were talking about AI, they were saying that, hey, this is what are the fantastic things we do. And most of the time, what people have seen of Gen AI are the fancy images and the fancy videos which come, right? So really fascinating. So what are your final concluding points which you would like to share in terms of the mistake number 5, which CROs or CMOs should avoid?
Don't be afraid to pivot.
Okay, yeah.
We are in a pivoting age, and it's changing every day. I mean, this kind of goes with the AI thing. We jumped into AI and got totally immersed in it. I could see it coming. We got into it, my whole team and I just decided, we just dove into the pool. And we built agents and processes, and we discovered that the platforms now that you use, the tools that you use change. So, and fast. I mean, you can find a tool that will do what you want, just like building an agent or something. And the first company we went with was sort of based on a methodology, not so much about AI, but how they see marketing. And it's somebody I've known for years and years. I used to speak at their conferences. And their software was good, and we built the agent. But then if they made a little change somewhere, sometimes the agent wouldn't show up for work. I mean, I'd come to our site, and David, our I can answer all your questions, it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it was one little change they made on their side. We did build a private library. This is what we're doing for clients, where we're not having the agent go out to the web. They can, but we limit their composing of the answer for the customer is all based on private company data. Like in our case, everything I've written, they're all my speeches, all that stuff, my book, all that's built in to the library that the agent draws from to answer the question.
Fantastic.
So we had to switch that, and we went through 2 or 3 of these platforms, and I think we're stabilizing. But the problem is you get all excited and you build the infrastructure and you have everybody trained, and then a better one comes along in a couple of months. And you're like, oh no, this one's even better. And you have to switch. Yeah. That's part of pivoting. The other part of pivoting is understanding how AI is affecting your job. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, just like I've done with my business, just like I did when the Mac came out and I said, they're all going in-house. I mean, you can spend ages wondering what you're going to do today, because it's going to be completely different from what you were doing yesterday. Fantastic. But don't be afraid. Do it.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you. This really gives a great perspective. And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Do subscribe, share, and like this podcast. Consider giving the podcast a 5-star rating if you like the content. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.